Hi, welcome to this screencast on Ruby 1.9 features. I will discuss about some of the new features is 1.9 and how uh, 1.8.6 differs from it. Okay, let's get started. Now, this first window I have Ruby 1.8.6 and the second tab I have Ruby 1.9 installed. I just followed the instructions found on Dave Thomas's blog for installing Ruby 1.9 on a separate folder, and it does not affect the existing installation of Ruby 1.8.6. And I also had some issues on Intel MacBook Pro where I had Leopard installed. I did an upgrade from older version and I had issues installing latest gems and the entire Rails stack. So what I did was I did an entire backup using SuperDuper and I erased the hard disk, and then I did a clean install of Leopard, and then I was able to follow all the instructions on Hive Logic and get the entire machine working with no issues. So I have 1.8.6 with entire Ruby gems, Rails to everything installed with no issues. So I'm able to now experiment with Ruby 1.9, which is on its own directory and does not interfere with Ruby 1.8.6. Okay, let's get started. Now, in Ruby 1.8.6, if you had seen my previous screencast, you are already familiar with the lambda. The lambda is used to create a proc object. So you would have something like this: lambda block variables, let's say B and C, and then you would just, let's say, do something with it. Okay, this will return a proc object, and then you can call this proc object and pass the values for the block variables like this. Since we're just adding, we'll get 3. Okay, now in Ruby 1.9 we have a new syntax for the same thing. We don't use lambda, instead we have this new symbol, which is just the small just after 0 there is a key which puts the small dash and then this arrow, and then you have the block variables B, C, and then the operations you want to do on the block variables. So we want to add them in this case. It's like this, and then you can call that returns a proc object, which is basically A. You can see it's lambda. So now we can call them later, pass in the values for the block variables, and you get the value of 3. Okay, that's just seems to be kind of a slight syntax change. And let's move on to the next one, which is the enumerator. Let's say, for instance, you have A equals 4 dot times. If you do in Ruby 1.8.6, it expects a block to the times method, whereas here in Ruby 1.9 you have A equals 4 dot times. It returns you enumerable enumerator object. So what can I do with this? I can say A dot each, that also returns the same object, and I can call inject, and I can provide any logic instead of it. I want to just add, in this case, add all of them. So I get 6. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6. So that's how this thing works. And the next one is map with index. Let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4 5 6, and I call a map method on this array with index, and then I have a block, I, and then if it's either 2 or 5 is included, I'm checking if the value I is in either 2 or 5. If it is, then just return the same value, otherwise just multiply it by 2. That becomes its new value. Okay, but of course there is no method with index in Ruby 186, so let's copy this thing and try this thing on Ruby 189 and see what happens. There it is. So as you can see, if it's 2, then it gets multiplied by 2. 0 1 2, if it's 2, it's just the same value. For 0 1 2 3 4 5, this is the fifth element, they are the same. 3 and 6 are the same, otherwise first element times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and so on, otherwise it gets multiplied by 2. So there is a new method with index on the map, and you can chain them together, so you can have your own logic in the blocks and operate on them. Okay, now all these examples are from the O'ReillyNet.com. There is a blog post by Gregory Brown on the horizon, 10 things I like about Ruby 1.9. So let's move on to another example. I have an array of elements, and if I call 2s on it, it just lumps all of them together. That becomes the resulting string. But in Ruby 1.9, it gives you the array itself as a string. Okay, so let's try the hash 1 2 3 4 dot 2s. It just gives you the same thing, but what happens in Ruby 1.9? It's having some issues with the IRB bug, and it's supposed to give a hash with a key value of 1 2, 1 as the key and 2 as the value, and 3 as the key and 4 as the value, enclosed by curly braces as a string, entire string. So, but it seems to be having some issues. And let's try another cool feature. This is not in Ruby 186, so I won't even try there. So let's clear this thing up. Let's say class A, and I have a method foo, doesn't do anything. Now there is a dot method, and you pass in the symbol of the method name as a symbol, and if you do receiver, who is the receiver in this case? It's A. So undefined method foo, it's supposed to give object A as the receiver. In this case, since A is the receiver, seems to be having issues there as well. So let's move on to the next one. Class A def foo and A dot method colon foo. Who is the owner? And define method foo for class enumerable enumerator. Let's see if we can use some other class name. to resolve this issue. Class, let's say bar def test and oh, okay, let's see, I have forgot to instantiate it. Okay, it's my fault. So b equals, sorry about that, b bar dot new. Now b dot method, give the test, and you call the receiver on this. It gives you the bar object. Bar, that class is the receiver. Okay, the same thing if you just do, but instead you call the owner, you should get the object bar was the receiver. This object was the receiver. And who is the owner? It says bar. The class bar is the owner. And then in Ruby 196, let's see how the block arguments affect the variables that's declared outside of the block arguments. So if you have a equals 1, and this is Ruby 196, and you just have the same name as the variable outside of the block, the value of a is, let's say what the value of a is now. A is changed actually to this a is 1, but when we executed this statement 10 times, the value of a was printed. So the last value of a, this value of a got is changed basically. But in Ruby 1.9, if you do the same thing, let's say a equals 1, 10 times, and now let's print the value of a. This a is different from this block variable a, so it does not get affected. So this seems to be the expected behavior and has been fixed in the latest version. And few more things is you can also do, instead of doing symbol, if you have a symbol like this with some values, instead of using that syntax, you can actually use this syntax, something with value of, let's say 2, with value of 6, and it maybe it's a IRB bug. It's got some issues, the IRB thing. And there are other things in Ruby 1.9 that's interesting, and I will go over them in later screencasts. Thank you for watching this screencast. If you enjoyed it, please recommend me on working with Sales. Thank you. Bye.